Hello, welcome. Welcome to Friday. Kicking it off here. It's an awesome way to end the week with our Fit Fridays. Welcome. And I know Rochelle's just slowly letting people in, and we'll probably have some latecomers join us. This has been fabulous. These Fit Fridays, I think this is our fourth one we've had working with Damon and Greg, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity to have focused time to talk about the importance of fit in the retail landscape, a time to network, to brainstorm, open yourself up to next level ideas and concepts. You know, these conversations are centered around bike fitters and shop-based fitting programs. And we really want to just make an opportunity to talk about how programs with fit and fit-centric can bring additional revenue to your bicycle retail store, but also how it really improves and adds to the overall cycling experience for your customer. These new riders entering our sport, we want to help them reduce the risk of injury, fall in love with the bike, and really set that time aside during a fit process to talk about the customer journey and the importance of the why of BikeFit. And we, for a short period today, have a special guest who has joined us. So with Greg over at the Serrata Institute is Ben Serrata. So he's actually on the call today. Thank you. Welcome, Ben. Welcome to our Fit Friday.
It's a nice surprise for me. This wasn't expected, but yeah, it's great to know that this.
I put Ben on the spot today. Is basically what
this thing is going. Yes, we finished with a fitting. I put on my coat, and Greg said,
"Why don't you sit down for just a couple of minutes?"
So this is great.
I love it. Yeah, we were talking for our retailers who are on the call. We were talking off screen earlier, and we are recording, so the retailers who are listening. And Ben has actually visited with Greg specifically to help a customer get set up right on their new Serrata that's going to be delivered. So we'll talk about customer-centric service and just going above and beyond. So Ben, that's truly amazing. And just to share, we also have Greg Robideau. He is the executive director of the Serrata International Cycling Institute. He's been with us every Friday. And then Damon Wyatt is the brand manager of BikeFit. Thanks for being here, guys.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us, as always.
Yeah, we always kick these off. What's new? What's happened since last time? And it's been only just a short, maybe week or so since our last one, maybe 2 weeks now. But what's happening? Greg, anything new in the fit world that you're seeing that you want to highlight and just kick us off here?
Well, I mean, I think to your point, having been here just really highlights the fact that we've got folks out there that are really dedicated and really interested in people being comfortable and having bikes that are going to perform for that person. One of the things that inspired me to do this was, Ben's commitment to that with Serrata bicycles back in the day. I was a student at Serrata and was, really fortunate to be able to have mentors like Ben and Porrick McGlynn and people like that were able to give me some of that knowledge, and I really like the trend that we're seeing here, not just with some of these discussions, but the people that are showing up and the questions that are being asked are legitimately good questions, and questions that to me make it feel as though our industry is moving in the right direction, that we're looking towards how do we make this a better experience for every rider that wants to ride a bike, regardless of what they look like, who they are, and what they plan to do with that bicycle, because riding bikes is awesome and we should all do it.
Riding bikes is awesome. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know the retailer's name from Northtown Cycling and Fitness, but could you just say hi maybe and tell us your name and let us know, do you have fit services at the store, or what's your purpose for attending today, or just, I don't know, give us something.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Heather. My name is Derek Stepanek from Northtown in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Welcome, Derek.
Yeah, thank you much. The pleasure's mine with this company. I was gonna just turn my camera off and listen, but Heather, you and I met very briefly at CABDA. And I've since connected with Brian Hawkins to get the audio from the video that didn't work there from you. So anyway, so we do have a bike fit specialist presently. and I actually accepted his resignation a week ago. He's going to be moving out of the bike industry. And so we're going to have an immediate hole. I'm a fourth generation owner of a store here in Cedar Rapids. We've been around for almost 100 years. And we understand the importance of fitting and how that legitimizes how we serve our customers, enhances their experience. And so we're going to have a need to fill, and obviously the timeliness of these things is incredible. Enough about us, but anyway, so that's the purpose I'm jumping on today, and we can hopefully get more into that with you all in the future. I can tell you more about what we've offered in the past.
Oh, it's so nice to have you. And I know, Ben, you have a time commitment because you have another appointment to get to. Is there anything that you wanted to share, listening just to his story right now, or is there anything that you want to share before, not to put you on the spot again, but I totally am, before you go, before you have to go?
Well, gee, I have I have a problem, which is I don't know what to say until I flip a switch, and then I don't know when to stop talking. So I'll not let that switch get flipped. But no, I think one of the reasons whatever version of this business I'm in right now, because I've had a few, I've changed gears a few times over the years, but one of the things I love about bike fitting and the fitters that have the right mindset is that you go into every fit. I miss learning, so I learned a lot about bike fitting. I developed a lot of the bike fittings basics that that are broadly used today. But my attitude always was, with every person, there's an opportunity to learn something. And no matter how good a fitter you are, there's always the next thing, and you just have to be open to that. And I think it's like I'm thinking of as schools have taught bike fitting, and there are a number of decent programs now. It's like lighting a new flame. In every group of would-be bike fitters, there's 10% of them who are on fire with the potential and the opportunity to improve people's lives. So it's a powerful position to be in, and you need to enjoy it. And I was missing that. So I'm not doing all the fittings that I do on bikes, but I really enjoy doing some fittings these days, and spending a little time with Greg is just a real treat. And so I think it's fantastic that you are all have lit your own torches and are moving forward. I can't not mention seeing that name in Greg's computer screen is the left-hand corner, Ted Ernst. Well, you're a master of this industry, so it's a pleasure to see you again. I haven't seen you in years and years.
Hey, thanks. Hi.
So anyway, I'm congratulations to you all for taking part in this, and to Heather for getting this set up with NBDA, and it's great to see you again. Great.
Yeah,
I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, it's been great.
All right.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, everybody.
And we have Tri-Town Bicycles, who I haven't met either. First, would you introduce yourself and just tell us about what you have going on at the shop as far as fit services, or what your hopes are?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, my name is Antonio Gonzalez, and owner of Tri-Town Bicycles in Boise, Idaho. We've been around for 10 years, and I've been doing bike fitting for about 15 years and worked in the bike industry for about 20. And when we opened, we were a triathlon specific shop. We do a lot more now. We probably sell more mountain bikes than tri bikes nowadays. But fitting's always been a big passion of mine. When I was in my early teens, late 20s, late teens, early 20s, getting involved in cycling, fitting just kind of drew me in, and read a lot from pretty much every form of literature out there on fitting, and I've been lucky enough to be able to practice it quite a bit. And usually in these, I like to just sit in and observe and listen, but I'm glad to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you,
All
Heather.
right, Damon, let's pop it back over. We've been all over and had Ben join us today, but where are you at? What's happened since last time, our last meeting? And, anything you want to bring up that you've noticed recently about Fit that's caught your attention?
Yeah, I held back, but I really wanted to derail this and ask Ben what he felt the point of Fit was in a retail space. I wanted him to describe that and if it should be in every retail space, but because I don't want to give my opinion, that's too obvious. Actually, Antonio, you kind of keyed in on something I wanted to talk to the group about. So I'm doing some research because I'm presenting at CABDA next week in New Jersey, New York, and I was looking at bike sales NPD data in the last year, right? Now, granted, everybody knows the last year has been odd. Last 2 years have been odd. I get it, inventory. We don't have to go down that supply chain road. But the mix actually hasn't changed that much. So when you break it down, at least my knowledge of fitting in the last 6 years or so is it's predominantly been road and triathlon. But when you look at sales of bikes and types of bikes, the sales of those types of bikes are somewhere between 11 to 12% of all bikes sold are those two types of bikes. Obviously, a TT bike or a tri bike being even less. I mean, 0.01% comparatively to road style bikes. So my question to all of you is, how much do you see other types of bikes as part of fitting, and how many of you actually fit those other types? And I'm talking not just mountain, which is one of the biggest sellers, but other types of bikes, commuters or hybrids or something where it crosses between those channels. And have you seen that change in your shops?
Great question. Anyone can just jump in at any time. Feel free. You can just unmute yourself and.
Yeah, Damon, since you kind of directed that initially towards in my direction, I guess. Nice to meet you, by the way. Yeah, I would say in 2019 and before, probably 50% of our fits were triathlon based, and maybe 30-40% were road and 10% were mountain. And nowadays, I would say that at least this last year, I'm just guessing here, but it should be in the ballpark. I would say that maybe only 25% of our fits are triathlon, and 50% would fall into the road and gravel category. And then the remaining would be in the mountain category. And so it's a pretty substantial change. I would never have guessed that we would be doing that. Triathlon fitting would be a smaller part of our fitting than it used to be.
Can I follow up question, Antonio? Do you see
Absolutely.
that is that demand? Is that people coming to you saying we want to fit, or is that your services of who's buying bikes?
Yeah, so in our case, it's probably a couple of reasons why that changed. One, when COVID hit, not a whole lot of triathlons going on, and a lot of those triathletes, I think they kind of just changed their horizons, tried road cycling, gravel biking, or gravel riding, mountain biking. And we were already known, at least in our community, as kind of the fitters. So we probably saw that market. But also we pivoted a little bit as a business as well. And our store is located right next to the Boise foothills, which has hundreds of miles of trails. And we were like, yeah, we should address that market a little more aggressively. And so, yeah, and we've just been building that up. So I do feel like the mountain bikers are starting to take fit more seriously than what I've seen in the past. I'd be interested to talk to some of the other fitters here, and yourself included, of course, on possibly even different pricing structures. Like we charge a flat rate on pricing for our fit services. And we do find that the mountain bike fits sometimes go a little quicker than the triathlon fits, for example, and maybe adjusting our pricing structure to address that.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, what are you? First, I need to get out to Boise for a mountain bike fit with you, so I'll schedule that appointment.
Sure.
Derek, what do you think? What are you thinking? What are you noticing?
I would echo the trends that we in our area, we had been the place to buy triathlon bikes and everything. And again, we're in eastern Iowa, so we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a smallish market. So we drew people from a long ways around with a wide selection of brands and products. We're sort of the everything for everybody store, because in Iowa, you can kind of get away with that. We're not a niche store. We're a large footprint store with lots of brands. So we definitely have seen the tri fits go down, road fits go up. And actually, I would tell you, the age has gone up. Has been the most interesting demographic thing for me. We have our fitter who just is leaving, but had been with our business for a good number of years, developed a following among mature riders. And so a lot of it was as much comfort and body change stuff as their riding evolved as it was a certain category. And the demographic shifted older and older and older. So that's been it. We don't have a huge mountain market here, so there's not been a lot of mountain fit. So a lot of road. And then Iowa does have a ton of great gravel riding. So that has picked up as well, which is one of his passions. So he's in that space and knows those people and brought that to the table. And I'll just finish with, so what I'm trying to do, and we've left the door open with him, he's going to stay in the area, just not in the bike industry. How do I keep, or what ideas for keeping a relationship going with him, or some things like that? And again, be happy to take that offline with people. I don't want this call to be all about my business, but assume there are some possible good solutions there. And I would want to know the best practices to structure that from whomever is best qualified to help on that, please.
Yeah, so Chad Picard, Spoken Sport, is here from South Dakota, so it just came in a little bit later. So Derek from Northtown was saying he has a fitter who's worked with him for years who is moving on. So looking for a little help from us. I think, I don't want to take the limelight from Greg and Damon, but I think we'd love to give him some help, right? Because that's what we like to do. But Chad, anything to add, or do you have multiple stores? Are you offering fit, or can you touch on anything before we help Derek here?
We're offering fit at this store only, our main store, which is our biggest store. We do kind of similar to some of you. People drive a long ways to get fit by us. We've kind of made a name for ourselves. But we have started to see a transition in what we're fitting. I just did the numbers. 10% of our fits are mountain bikes, which really surprised me. We're not known as a mountain bike area, but our local club's growing the trails exponentially over the last 10 years. We did, with COVID, we did a hard reset on our fitting program and retrained 2 new fitters with, we use the retool system. And that's been awesome to have 2 people to use. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that was all the answers, questions.
Perfect. So Greg, you're listening to everything. What are you thinking about what Derek asked, or just anything forward here?
Well, the first thing I'd like to start with is as far as numbers are concerned, I have a little different business model than most of you folks there, because I'm a physical therapist by trade. And so people don't come to me to buy a bike. They're only coming to me to get fit. I do make suggestions about purchasing things, but I've also recently taken a look at my numbers as far as who's coming in and who I'm fitting. And so I've seen an uptick in my mountain bike fits as well. I am also seeing significantly more fitting with commuters. And so something you might not guess, but the DOT statistics for the United States put Boston, specifically Cambridge and Somerville, Massachusetts, where I'm located, as number 4 and number 5 in the country for number of commuters on bicycles. And that population is starting to realize how important bike fits are. So in my physical therapy practice, as well as in my fitting practice, I'm seeing a lot more people that are commuters and riding commuting style bikes versus road bikes coming in to get fit. Some of that has been driven by the fact that the COVID has definitely influenced public transportation here, and so people are seeking out alternative public transportation, and also driven by the fact that they've made a really hard push in Massachusetts to put in infrastructure where they can here to accommodate cyclists. So we're seeing a lot more separated bike lanes. We're seeing, at the very least, painted bike lanes pretty much everywhere. And then where they can, they're actually changing the roads to change the parking and actually create a separated bike lane for cyclists. And so that's been one of the more encouraging areas for me, because these are folks that historically don't know a lot about their bicycles, and just have a huge learning opportunity. In addition to just, I sound like a broken record with this, but in addition to, improving their fit, we're also improving their knowledge and improving them not only as cyclists as far as their knowledge base is concerned, but for you folks, you're also improving their customer knowledge and making them smarter consumers. And doing that, it has a real impact on what their decision process might be moving forward when they're going to buy their next bicycle. And so when you can have that unique opportunity to capture that person, spend time with them, the value proposition for what a brick and mortar shop can do really, really is exposed. And you can see how much love goes into those area, that area of selling bikes, because most of us are doing it because we love bicycles, not because we love selling things, but because we want people on bikes. It's a powerful thing. I talk about BikeFit being, yes, we get numbers at the end of the day where we've got a position for somebody, but that's the smallest part of the fit that we're doing. It's really about the experience that we bring that person through and the amount of education we can, relay to them in that process. So, I think it's a wonderful thing. And then with regards to, finding folks as far as, in a shop environment, where, if you've got a fitter that's leaving, it's a hard choice sometimes to find the right person in your shop, the right employee in your shop that really wants to do this. And I think there has to be a real desire to want to fit bikes. And Damon and I had a discussion about this offline after our last Fit Friday. And he gave me some really great feedback, because one of the things that I've been saying is that BikeFit's not easy. And I don't mean that to say that it's hard to get into BikeFit or that it's not worth doing or anything like that. But what I mean when I say that is that it takes time, it takes attention, and it takes a little bit of love to get it done. And it's a little messy. I mean, human beings are messy things. And in order to make sure that we're getting them the information that they need and really making good critical decisions about how to position someone, to do that, we need to really dig deeper. You can't just take it from the surface. We don't, somebody brought up last time that there's, systems that we can point at people and press a single button and it's going to come up with a position for somebody. Removing the human from the fitting process is a big mistake, because the human is the one that has to ride that bike. And so, learning who they are, learning what they're going to do with this bike, learning why they love riding bikes really will influence some of the things that you do to position them. And so not only does that get them a better result at the end of the day, it builds a better relationship between you and that person, and potentially builds a better customer moving forward.
Greg, I'm with you on that. There's so much here and it can get messy, right? Just going back to Derek, maybe trying to continue this relationship with his fitter outside of the business. Is that a good idea? And how do we navigate that? Has anyone ever done that? I mean, Antonio, are you the fitter or do you have a staff? Have you ever dealt with this in your area?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of our business and also the head fitter. We do have another gentleman on staff who has experience in fitting, but it's not his primary role. I definitely have to mirror the thoughts shared recently, in that you really have to find a person who's really passionate about it. Challenges that I've had finding more fitters is, of course, employees sticking around long enough to really develop the experience. to be competent and confident fitting, the willingness to learn, of course, and then being humble enough that if they do go to a fit school, to not think that after 3 days that they're going to know everything there is to know about fitting. I definitely seek in our employees people that just have that open mentality of always learning. And so, the way our business is structured, as a business owner, we have found that the best use of my time is like long-term strategic planning, and then bike fitting. We're also a coaching business, so I do coaching as well. But the coaching and the bike fitting, they're very high touch, very personal services that we provide. And I find as the owner of the business, that's often my best time with a clientele versus necessarily working the sales floor or always looking over spreadsheets in the back. So that's how we're structured.
Okay.
Derek, is your former person who's leaving, is he or she willing to subcontract until you find something else?
That's the question that I've asked, and we're going to explore that relationship. So to echo what you guys have said, our business is 100% built on relationships. It is not just transactional. So I am mortified to think of like, okay, well, you're gone, so who's the next person that's going to do this? That is not where we're going. I will have no fit before I have poor fit. We happen to have the retool system as well, and Graham is his name, that he implemented a few years ago. And he came out of the kind of exercise physiology side of things. It was one of his passions of coming to the bike world. And so I think maybe stepping aside from the retail sales floor and the hustle and bustle and chaos, I'm hoping may re-energize his passion for those intimate moments with the client, that he can kind of be like this contract side business that we're feeding him. Maybe we work out a fee structure and a percentage of parts or something like that. And as long as it's taking care of its space on the showroom floor, if he wants to invest in it and sells me on him wanting to continue to do it, then I'm okay with that, keeping a very short leash on the feel of it. That's a long answer to your short question, Damon.
Yeah, no, I know that places do it, right? So like I talked to a bunch of shops when I used to do sales a lot, and shops would do mainly multiple different kinds of methodologies, right? There'd be something more along the lines of like what Antonio's saying, where it's like an in-shop person in-house, like what you had before. There is like the subcontracted methodology of working with somebody who's an outside private. There's even ones where I've seen where people who are outside actually do the fits in the shop, hence the product and everything else. But they're actually not an employee of the shop, right? They're literally 1099 and they work as a subcontract. And then there's even the other ones where some shops, and I don't recommend this at all, just basically refer to somebody else. I think that's a horrible decision because about the relationship that we talked about before. I think that everybody should keep that relationship with their customers and create that base. And I think that's the hard part of the subcontract is they love the fitter, they don't necessarily love the shop. And I'm not saying it's a bad methodology at all, because we're providing the best thing for our customers, right? And when you see that, it's like, I do the service this way because I want you to have the best possible experience on your bike. And knowing and feeling that is a very important thing. I mean, the other thing you can do, and I'm not saying this is wildly successful, although I've seen it, is literally looking for someone who's an experienced fitter to come work at your shop, or a physical therapist who's had training in bike fitting, which is another, Greg could tell you more about that, Ali, and which really you get to the medical side of the spectrum. Again, probably wouldn't work at the shop, but it is a great avenue, because I've seen so many different ways work that I want to just tell you what I've experienced or seen.
So when I started my business 20 some odd years ago, I was a young physical therapist. I was racing bicycles, and I started approaching shops back then, and saying like, listen, I don't want to be your shop fitter. I want to take the people that are complicated. I want to take the people that are maybe broken, or difficult. Those are the people I want to take. And back then there was some resistance to that. People thought I was trying to steal their business. And eventually I was able to build enough trust where, and enough communication. I think the key thing is if you're going to use a contracted fitter, which I actually don't think is a bad idea, because I mean, I've done it for years now. It's all about how you communicate and how you hand people off. So if someone were to come to me, if I were to be working for you, the process would be that you would say, hey, in my case specifically, you'd say, we have a medical consultant here at our shop. You've got a little bit more going on than just your standard person that walks in here. We're going to refer you out to Greg, and Greg's going to do the fitting with you. He's going to kind of bring you through that process. But as soon as he's done, we're going to communicate, and whatever your needs are, we're going to fulfill those things. And typically what I would do in order to support whatever shop sent me that individual is I would have them on the phone when I was completing that fit with that person. And I'd say, hey, I've got John Smith here. Thank you very much for sending him over. These are the things that John's going to need based on our fitting today. I can forward you all of his positional information. Are you going to be able to, can you make sure that you have these things? John's going to drop his bike off with you, and can you fulfill those things that he needs, whether it's, a new stem, new crank arm, new handlebars, new saddle. These are the positions that you want to put him in. That way you're making the sale on all of the equipment. You are getting the money for your mechanic to put all those things on, and then they're going to do some follow-up work with me just to make sure any last little tweaks that need to happen are happy. And I just make sure that there's a warm handoff there, that person knows what to expect. And I will put the person on the shop on speakerphone and say, hey, I've got John Smith here, and we're working on his fit, and these are the things that he's going to need. And everybody's on the same page, and people feel like a rock star when that happens. And for some shops, if they don't have the space, or they don't feel as though they've got either the education or even the financial means to get started into fit, that finding an outside contractor can be a really beneficial relationship if there's really good communication.
What are you thinking, Derek? You're getting a lot here right now. Overwhelmed.
I am. I'm taking notes. I think ideally, for our store, it'll be ultimately having an employee here who has that heart of and compassion of a teacher. But in the meantime, since I've had a relationship with our current person, I'm not opposed to keeping things going to serve our customers in the meantime. But I love the thank you, Greg, for the handoffs. And I think we would do it the same way. I'm thinking what I really need to do is continue the relationship with my current person, but be transparent with him and say, I'm going to be looking for someone who's coming on board as a full-time employee. I don't have that person on staff now, but I'm going to be advertising and looking for a physical therapist, a rider who maybe has that background in exercise science or something. And there's probably people in our market who would love to be part of our store. And, with everyone changing careers and the flexibility there in today's world, maybe somebody who says, yeah, that'd be a great opportunity and can bring increased value to a sales or floor position as being part of that team, but also doing this stuff in addition to that. So
the one thing I'd like to throw out there, and this is, I don't want you to take this as me throwing any physical therapist under the bus here, but I'm going to give you just a small piece of advice, just because this is something that I've seen through my education process. I have a lot of PTs that come and take this coursework. There are many PTs that think it's just a very easy transition to just become a bike fitter. And there's a lot to understanding bike fit, and it's not just biomechanics. You also have to understand product, and you have to understand how bicycle geometry affects those positions. So just because you're a physical therapist does not mean you'll be a good bike fitter. I get many PTs that will call me and say, well, can I just test out of this stuff because, I'm a PT. So, and I'm like, no, you can't, because quite frankly, I've I've had folks that I've offered the opportunity to take some testing, and they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't mean that in like in a harsh way. It's more that there's more to it than simple biomechanics. And quite frankly, physical therapy education, while it covers the body's interaction with the earth, the ground, extensively, it does not necessarily cover the biomechanics of how a person interacts with a machine quite as well. So, and there are distinct differences. And so, it's funny because I've had this conversation with many PTs. We're teaching a course next week where we have 2 PTs in the course. One of the 2 had called me to ask if he could test out, and I said, well, let's have a Zoom. Let's have a conversation about this, and let's see what the value add is for you to come and take this coursework. And we had a 45-minute conversation, and he's like, yeah, I think I need to take the coursework. And so, I think that as far as your vetting process is concerned, just because they're a PT doesn't necessarily mean that they're well prepared for working in your shop. I think that if you've got a PT that has the desire and you're willing to kind of take them under your wing a bit with regards to the product side and the geometry side and some of that stuff, and then they can impart to you some of the more biomechanical and anatomical side, I think there's a really good potential relationship that can live there. But again, to Heather's point and to Damon's point earlier, we have to be open to learning. And to Ben's point earlier is just that, I honestly learn something every time I do a bike fit, every time I teach a course. People will bring something up that maybe I didn't think of in a particular way. And I love that. I love being challenged and having people make me think about things. That's what's exciting about this. And I think looking for someone like that is willing to be open to suggestion, willing to be open to conversation, is the person you want to seek out with regards to a medical professional.
I'm grateful for all of that. I'm all ears. And it analogous to just because someone is a really passionate cyclist or bike rider doesn't make them a great fit on the sales floor either. Maybe, but often not. So.
Yeah, I think you can make the same comparison of having passion about bikes doesn't make you great at business, right? Like there's all of you owners, I'm sure know this, right? Monitoring a P&L and watching how that works versus just loving bikes are sometimes 2 different things. So, I will echo Greg's sentiments on, we work with a lot of PTs and there's definite benefits. There's also, cycling suffers from a wild lack of good research. People are not putting money into cycling research. So I don't know if any of you have ever gone down that rabbit hole. I have a bunch of times. And so when you come into it, some people have done research, which the more money is in function as a biped, just walking. There's a lot of research on that, but that doesn't exactly relate to how you function on the bike, which you could probably argue is more like horses than we are like humans, right? So we're kind of in an interesting, different way that we're set up on a bike versus the way we are walking. And there isn't a whole lot of research on that. So I got into this is going to go down a rabbit hole. I shouldn't do this, but I will anyway. It's Friday. I got into a disagreement with a physical therapist about leg length discrepancies because when you're walking on the ground, basically there's a research article that says that if it's not more than 2 centimeters, you really shouldn't do anything about it. Greg, you could probably echo me if you read this article.
Yes.
But when you're on the bike, the way you function and the fact that you're not doing a heel strike and the fact that your leg is slightly tilted, it's never going to lock out, right? And so the way it moves and the number of times it moves, revolution per minute, that is exacerbated significantly, but there is not research on this. So since there wasn't research, the person's like, no, I'm not going to do anything about it. The person's just going to adapt. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. And I'm not telling everybody hey, let's start talking about leg length discrepancy. I'm just saying understand, Derek, to your point, that belief system doesn't exactly relate to how someone functions on the bike. So having that ability to learn, listen, watch, hear, feedback is so important. And so I would say somebody almost that wants to know the answer, like, let's get with the person on the bike and say, wow, that hurts. That's really interesting. Let's figure that out. Like, that doesn't make you a bad fitter. It makes you a curious fitter. And I think that's way better.
Yeah, 100%.
I love the passion. Like, the passion in this conversation is so evident. And I want to make sure we have time for, I know Ted is here, Antonio, Chad. Did anyone else have any questions that they wanted to ask the panel, or they wanted to just throw out and get some advice on while we're here? And Neil is here too. No? Okay.
I think it's all just great, because trying to figure out how to determine if somebody has the aptitude and attitude for becoming a fitter is just really important. And a lot of what's been said is just so pertinent to that.
Derek, do you do fits yourself at the store?
I do not. I've been in that ownership role for, kind of, I'll say general manager owner for 20 years now. So that isn't something that I have or am able to take on. I do spend a lot of time with our e-bike clients. Greg, you mentioned high touch, and Antonio, like that is what my passion is for. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of attention. So my sales time with clients is in that category, which is moving the needle for our business substantially right now.
I applaud you for setting limits. I just want you to know that. I absolutely and utterly applaud that you recognize where that value is and where those limits are, because in the past life, we did a lot of training with owners and there was a lot of passion there, but time management, people management, business management, I mean, it's more than a full-time job. I don't need to tell you, I don't want to get, so I applaud your, you have to set those priorities. And I believe me, I believe fitting can do some incredible things from lifetime relationship management, but I believe as the owner, you've got to make a big picture decision. And I applaud your setting limits.
Thank you. We are also starting down the road of a store redesign, because it's been 20 years since we've had last professional help doing that, which, if any of you know Brian Hawkins that I alluded to earlier from Fixture Lab in Colorado. So he's asking, of course, hey, what's our space need to be like? And he's working with some other great retailers on some fit studios, and are we going to dedicate space to that now? And those are the things that I have to kind of put in the hopper and juggle. And so ultimately having that person here that can develop and nurture those relationships with clients, because our business is all based on active listening, attention to details. We say we make the complex simple, and the intimidating achievable. So we're very inclusive with all levels of riders. And I know we need to get this right, because the damage of just having it to have it, we won't go there. So
Antonio, your building is like, you're in like a house, right? Like, what's your space look like?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm actually sitting in our fit studio right now. It's probably easier to see it on our website actually than on my little computer here. But yeah, we have a certain space devoted to fitting. The building we're in is a historical building. It's like 100 years old, but it was extensively remodeled about 20 years ago, but they never finished it. And then I took it upon myself on finishing the project, and it's an exceptionally cool property. But yeah, it's on multiple floors, and probably going to our website or Google is probably the easiest way to see it. But yeah, at our old location before we moved here, we've been in this location for 3 years. At our old location, our shop was more like a bowling alley, and we didn't have the space in that location to devote just to fitting. We still did a lot of fitting. It was probably still a substantial percentage of or an important percentage of our business. But since moving here, it's really helped our fitting business having a dedicated space to it. And so if you were thinking, I would recommend any other shop owner, if you were thinking fitting would continue to be an important part of your business, devoting the space to it is critical, in my opinion. A couple things with our layout, like we don't have it's a closed off room. There's glass, it's glassed in more or less. so that people that come into their shop, they see what's happening. It's also open air, so like they can hear we're talking about. Gosh, that's so important that, so many of our fits that we end up working with athletes on is because they observed somebody else for a period of time while they were shopping, hearing the conversations that happen in a fit, just seeing a little bit of the process. And I never try to hide that from anybody else. I want them to be a part of it, maybe pick up something just as they're shopping around.
Does that ever have any impact on the people who you're fitting? The idea that they're kind of have an audience in a sense while they're dressed in cycling garb?
That's a great question. I like to think it's not too bad, but maybe a little bit. Definitely, I would take it case by case. A certain number of cyclists are maybe pretty comfortable being in spandex, but if I was trying to address, we fit a lot of people in the racing environment, or in the serious, enthusiast environment. Those people you definitely lean more towards the exhibitionist, scale of things, so I don't think they're too concerned about that. If I was trying to address the commuter market, which was mentioned earlier, which I think is a really good idea, I could see a little more privacy being really, really valuable, and maybe installing some type of blind structure or something like that, like over our windows, would be really valuable in that regards. I also would say though that like when how it is when you're in a fit and you're having a really good engagement and conversation, I don't notice too many other people. But maybe if I was involved in a fit where there's a lot of issues with technology or just interruptions, then maybe the client does become more aware of their surroundings and not just engaged in the process. It's a good point.
Go ahead, Greg.
Sorry, I think sometimes one of the things that I've heard from clients that come to see me, and then I'm in a fit studio that's just a fit studio, right? And so there's nobody else around here. And I'm a physical therapist, so I think the expectations maybe are a little bit different. But when we're talking about that inclusivity and getting other types of bodies and other types of people into your fit studio, I think it can be somewhat intimidating for folks if they need to talk about like having issues in their saddle area or things like that. If they're within earshot of other people in the shop, I think people might be less likely to share if they feel as though talking about their saddle sores is something that's going to be overheard by everybody else, or their erectile dysfunction because of riding, or whatever that might be. And the other thing with regards to that, and one of the things that as far as our education process that we're really trying to drive home, and one of the things that's made me really happy is that we've seen a significant uptick in our female fitters at SICI. So a lot more women coming to this, and not that you can't be good and be empathetic and be a really good listener as a male working with a female athlete, but sometimes people are just going to be more comfortable divulging some of that information to the same gender, and seeing more women being interested in doing fitting and providing that option for folks is really nice. And then just trying to make sure that we're using language and being as accepting as possible with regards to, I think walking into a shop like yours where maybe there are a lot more high-level athletes, a lot more bike racers in there, that can be really intimidating for somebody who's a first-time cyclist or somebody who's a commuter, doesn't feel that they fit into the spandex-clad portion of the cycling industry, and making sure that it feels warm and accepting and inviting to those folks as well, I think is a huge part at creating that inclusivity in your shop environment. Not that you're not doing that. I'm just saying that that's something that I feel like is really important, and especially with the kind of shift in population that I'm seeing with regards to people that are curious about fit or wanting to get fit, You know, a lot of these people are not cyclist bodies. Now, a lot of these people are not wearing spandex when they're going out and riding. You know, I could see that walking into a shop where that's the majority of people that are in there, or the majority of people that are getting fit, that might set up maybe not a huge barrier, but maybe it's a little intimidating to walk into that. So just a thought.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in, Antonio. That wasn't a critique when I asked that question. That was literally just curiosity. Like, that was more like, please see it as, like, I was asking the question as in, you know, having conversations with lots of people. You clearly have a successful program that you're doing fantastic with. And as you said in your own conversation, that your model, people have listened to what has been said, which has gotten referrals for fit. So please, for the love of God, don't think I'm critiquing, like saying, oh, you're doing it wrong, because that's not what I'm saying. I think it's more of like, I think what Greg was saying, which is beautiful, which is like, you know, how are we, if we're shifting our dynamics as shops, or we're trying to like include more in our shops, right? Because it really depends on the type of rider and the bikes you sell. It's more of like thinking globally. So please don't take that as a, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't take it that way at all, guys. Yeah, no. And
I was like, guys, stop beating him up over there.
I knew it. I knew Heather's like, oh my gosh, it's gonna ruin everything.
Like...
Oh my gosh, no, I loved all that feedback. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I imagine that a lot of how the customer, you know, feels about the fit experience really comes down about the engagement that happens during the fit. And oh gosh, I mean, yeah, how many times have we seen maybe a fitter out there that is a hardcore roadie, you know, wearing like the Italian wool sweater or whatever, and probably, you know, if they're doing a fit with a basic commuter, the commuter's probably going to feel a little out of place in that environment. But so much of it, as you guys know, is about how you conduct yourself and how you engage. And definitely the points, Greg, you make about having space for those personal conversations, I can't agree more. You know, yeah, in this case, like in this little studio that I'm in here for our fitting, it is like you can see what's happening, but there's also like the part I'm sitting in now is quite private. You know, it would be kind of like an office still, you know, and if somebody was standing at the door, they would probably hear what we're talking about, but not outside.
And I think, to your point, and what I want to echo from Damon, and I want to applaud you for, is that and I can just hear in your voice is that there is a real passion for this, and that is what people aren't necessarily picking up on the words that you're saying. They're picking up on the energy that you're producing, and that's and that's powerful. And when people see that excitement, see you like really getting into, you know, improving the experience for that person, it's that's the power right there. It's not necessarily the words that you're saying, and people like eavesdropping on the specific words. It's more like, you know, wow, this is like a really cool experience that this person's having right now.
So I guess I have a question. You know, Heather earlier asked if we had any questions, and I didn't at the moment, but now I do. How often do Greg and Damon in particular, do you guys have are you in a fit where the client has say a pain point or an issue where the solution to that is like almost systematic, as if like, oh, I have a process of addressing that directly, versus having more of a curious, like problem solving mindset? At least in my 15 so years of fitting, I have kind of a process I walk through, and that I feel like kind of knocks off about 80-90% of the issues that most cyclists would have. But inevitably, everyone has like their specific thing that they want addressed, right? And I always feel like if somebody comes in for a fit or for a bike tune-up, if we don't fit or fix this specific reason they're here, then we failed, even if we solved a bunch of other things they weren't particularly aware of. So what I found is just over my years doing this, that it's become more of like not really following a process necessarily. I always start there because it works to a degree, but then having a really open mind and saying like, okay, like you've been maybe somewhere else, or this isn't going to be super straightforward. We just have to, you know, put our thinking cap on and figure this out somehow. Do you guys have any insight on or thoughts on that, or how often that happens to you, versus would you say like, no, like our process will check off all the boxes?
Well, I'll jump in first on that. I mean, I think the fact that you have a process or a methodology for looking at this is really the key to all of that. Because if you have a process to follow, it's not just about checking boxes. It's about being thorough. It's about listening to what's happening with that person. And then they're involved in this process. This is, sometimes part of that education, part of that conversation with that individual is managing their expectations. You make that 10% of people that walk in that don't feel like they've had that need met. I think maybe it's because that their expectation was slightly off what could be delivered in that moment, right? So for me, I get this a fair amount because almost everybody that comes to me is broken, right? So let's say that somebody comes to me, they're having a ton of knee pain, right? Is it reasonable for that person to leave my studio on that day and not have knee pain? Well, for some people, maybe. For other people, it's like, you know what? You've got this thing really revved up and hot. It's angry. And so even if I do everything 1,000% right today, there's still going to be a certain amount of pain that has to dissipate over time, right? So if your goal today was to walk in here and not have any knee pain when you ride a bicycle, that may not be a realistic goal for you. I would love it if that happened, and sometimes it does. But I think what's more realistic is that we're going to try to alleviate any mechanical tensions or torques that were happening to your body. We're going to try to align this. We're going to decide whether it's only a bike thing or whether we need to work on your body a little bit as well. And in doing so, we're going to have a plan put together as to how much time it might take for this to go away, right? And as long as we're managing that expectation and saying like I think what we need to do is craft that a little bit more to make it something that we can achieve. I think you get the rest of that 10% in there. I think your process, like you said, is going to knock out a really high percentage of the people that walk in the door because you're going to be thorough, and having a process and having a kind of consistent methodology for how you go through the fitting process is going to get you there because you're listening and you're figuring out exactly what it is that person needs and wants. And that's the majority of this process. And for those few people that walk in, there's going to be a small percentage and that aren't going to be happy no matter what. And I have to say, after nearly 25 years of doing this, I had my first person a year ago, almost a year ago now, that asked for her money back on a BikeFit. And she had been fit by 6 other people. I gave her a sizable discount because I felt bad that she had gone through so many other fitters. And I spent more time with her than I would normally spend on other people. I went above and beyond ordering things that I paid for so that she could try, and she asked for her money back. And, if I'm being totally honest with all of you, I was pretty angry about that. But it was one of those things where I was like, if that's really where you are, if that's what you believe, then I am going to give you your money back and send you on your way and wish you all the best.
God, I feel like we were one of the first 6.
Oh my God. And I hate to be the one, but it's 2. And I know other people have appointments and we have to kind of move forward. I loved this. I hope we can come back and share again next month. If anyone had any specific questions, you can reach out to me, heather@mbda.com, and I can get the emails of Greg and Damon over to you, or hopefully facilitate those questions.
Please, as far as I'm concerned, Heather's allowed to give out any of my contact information. If I can be a resource for any of you, if you want to chat, like this, I'm happy to. I actually set aside time to do this so that if you need to have a little bit more of a conversation, I'm happy to help. I won't throw Damon under the bus that way, but I'm available if you need me.
Heather has my burner phone, so she knows where the fitters call. It's cool. I don't tell my wife, but I love talking about this stuff. So.
Greg, thanks for bringing Ben to join in today.
It was a happy coincidence today. So it was great to see him. I hadn't seen him in about 6 months, so it was really good to see him. And he's a wonderful resource. And so to have him, even only for a few minutes, if you ever get a chance to see Ben Serrata or talk to him, he's a wonderful human. Grab his ear, chew on it for a while, because he's a wealth of knowledge. So he's a great person to have around.
Awesome. Well, Ted Ernst is here, and he'll be leading and joining in on the panel on our January event, talking about the basics of getting into bike fit and what you need to set up at your store. So thanks for being here, Ted. And yeah, I guess with this, we got to go. We got to attack Friday and go into the weekend strong. And thanks for being here. And I shared Antonio's links in the chat function because I thought that just the way that his website was and the way that he had the scheduling on was awesome. So take a look at those if you can. Derek, good to see you, man. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you all for your grace and time of allowing me a little bit of this call. I really appreciate it. And you will all see me again. Chad, good to see a face with a name from NBDA Conversations like 2 years ago. Right. And Rachel, thanks for keeping the ship in the right direction. Heather, you're crazy. 100 miles with no bicycle underneath you. You're nuts. I'm just saying. So.
It's going to be a blast. I can't wait. I'm going to hop on an airplane now. So I'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.
Thank you all so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.